Going live. There we go. Shabadoo, shabadoo. Boo.
You can't see me. Oh my gosh. Immediately you start just buzzing like crazy.
Oh, I don't know what to do about that. It's very
No,
depressing.
I fix it now. It's fine. I fix it now.
Bow, bow, bow.
Nobody
asked. Oh.
I didn't believe that one. I feel like you knew. Every other one has been believable, but this one, I had it off my face for so long before we started that I feel almost certain that you knew you should have been off. And now I'm going to talk about it as punishment.
My bad.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, but mostly ladies. That's who watches the show. Welcome to Nobody Asked with Maria.
Hello.
And me. I'm wearing pink today. Also, my name is Colin. Do I?
Oh, I don't have our names on.
What?
So I don't have our names on.
We have the star background.
Yes, we have the star background. Oh, here we go.
Patriotic nonsense. Oh, hey, look at that.
We're working on amendments, right? So I thought we got to be patriotic or pretend to be patriotic, you know.
Today we're working on amendments. And also, it's going to be kind of freeform. And we'll, talk with the audience, which is at the moment just Ashley. And, basically, we talk about all these topics over the course of many weeks. And then at some point we have to, kind of smash together all of the new knowledge into a ball and go, what is this ball of nonsense? What do we do with this? I don't know. Well, let's just put it right here then. And that is this podcast. So huzzah!
Huzzah. And we can't help but notice Ashley's new her little face.
Her new icon.
Her new icon. Hilarious.
Folks are coming out of the side of that is rough for sure. It reminds me of, those old, was it 70s and 80s high school photos where you would be it would have a full body shot and then it would have a low opacity face looking off towards the corner up somewhere over here. That's what it reminds me of, is there's definitely some weird dodo bird vulture thing, and then there's the face that's looking out over it.
But right on top of it, and also it's got arms.
Yep.
Boy. Such a good one. All right.
Am I buzzing or anything? When I'm talking?
No, you're not buzzing.
It's buzzing in my ears when I talk, which is very weird. But if I'm not buzzing, I'm not buzzing. Yes. Okay. Well, Mom, do you want to introduce the freeform and only topic?
Yes. So today, oh shit, I got the volume on my phone. Today we're going to try to work through, the amendments a little bit. Are you really going to let me just talk? Are you going to really just let me say stuff?
No, I just wanted to see how long you'd do it. Just kidding. I just knew I knew you were primed to be ready for it, and the joy of it is making you uncomfortable, and so I had to let it happen. Today's episode is sponsored by Joseph Biden. Once again, he's a big fan of the show, and he has this. he's a big fan of the show. He just has a hard time logging on, and he has this to say to our viewers. Hey, guys. Wow, this is really cool. Man, so America is a beautiful place with many podcasts, but wow, I'm from Delaware, and what I'm thinking about lately is that we need to protect the rights. And what I'm thinking is that America is all about rights, and it's about lefts. And when I go to the grocery store, it's well, I get driven there at this point. I can't drive, but I can sure drive the country. Kamala, why don't you take this over? I'm confused. Okay.
Oh.
Um,
I was like, do you have a Kamala back there too?
we live in a beautiful country. I've never tried a Kamala impression ever. Okay. And
Okay.
If you think things should change, you're expecting too much. Okay.
Oh,
And that was our message from Joe Biden.
Oh, that was good stuff. Joe Biden.
We did it, Joe. I don't have an impression at all of Kamala. I saw one person with an impression, and I thought I could emulate it, and the answer was that I could not.
I enjoyed the attempt. It made me laugh for sure. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if she does that, but I hope she does because that was funny to me. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, there was that TikTok that I sent you of the life giving you lemons TikTok.
Yes.
Oh,
Ooh.
So good.
Ooh. Can we even put that up on here? Can you pull it up on your phone?
I'm going to try to find a way to do it. I'm going to try and find a way to do it. But you introduce the topic while I attempt it.
All right. So we had previously started our amendment. That's kind of it's gonna, in my mind, it's gonna be more than just women's rights, because what's a woman these days? But I think that it very quickly turned into something bigger than that, and just generally protecting people and their identities and their freedoms to fucking be fucking people. But it's just such a struggle right now. I'm having such a real struggle with the whole concept of around abortion rights as I watch all of these sort of tiny stopgaps be introduced. We have Biden who's talking about, we're not going to block these medications that are, these abortive medications. You should still be able to get it. Okay, should we do this first?
Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Oh, I don't hear it though.
You don't hear it?
No.
Oh.
Is this little button?
Damn it.
Let's see. Let me see if it's muted. No, it doesn't say it's muted.
Oh no. Okay, I don't. Mayday. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never had a problem sharing.
Let's try again.
Okay, I'll try and find another way of doing it. Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah, I don't know why there's no sound. It looked like it had sound on.
Can you hear it?
No. Also, she's all jiggy.
Okay, annoyed. Let's see. Who's this by? Alien Race. I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube.
You're just gonna make an assumption that she's got one.
I mean, when things go viral, I think people repost them too.
True. Other platforms.
Okay, I'm wrong. Just keep going.
Okay, so I'm a little frustrated because I'm watching all of these kind of sort of tiny stopgaps. Like again, Joe Biden saying you're still going to be able to get these medications. They're going to be, federally protected, basically. So even if your state outlaws them, you're still allowed to get them. He's also saying things about interstate travel that, even if your state has made a law saying that you can be prosecuted, we got your back. I don't know how, but there's a lot of that kind of talk from Biden, in the form of executive orders, and I think we always knew it was going to come down to executive orders, even though I kind of disagree with the whole notion, because it's just not an effective tool. It's not an effective long-term tool. It's a very short-term tool. So these are just things that frustrate me, but I also have to recognize that they are necessary because we don't have anything big right now to solve the problem. You're still working on it. What was the other one? There's another one.
I think I've got it.
You think you've got it?
Yeah. Well, tell me if you can hear it now. Now I'm sharing a Chrome tab, so it should show the audio.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
And when light and the lemons, you oh fuck. What is wrong with that lemon? You can't make lemonade with that. And that is a metaphor. It's hot. I'm
Oh man.
Okay. How did you do it? It was a good laugh.
It was
I
all
believed it.
around just next it's hot.
It's hot.
And what's the metaphor for, ladies and gentlemen? What are we supposed to do? What do they want us to do now that we have a majority in the Congress and Senate and also the presidency and the vice presidency? What do you want me to do? Create legislation that represents our promises? How? All I've done is arrest people on drug charges. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. She's bothered me.
Diamond Girl, we will never forgive you for being late. This is a travesty, and we frankly won't have it.
Okay. So, I mean, okay. I'm just going to back up a little bit to like the women's health care bill, whatever the fuck that was. I can't even remember anymore. Congress passed it. We couldn't get it through the Senate, even though, like you just said, we had this majority going. But really, we have that one asshole on our side that doesn't actually make it 50-50 because he won't vote for shit. And then, filibuster and all that caca doo-doo that is very annoying. But then, so Congress, the House of Representatives has thrown another bill out there recently, and it is about. I'm so depressed about everything right now.
Let's go. Depression.
Yeah, I'm clearly not organized.
What bill are you talking about right now?
What am I talking about?
The new abortion one, or
you know what? I think this is confusing me because
like
I have
interstate.
Have
Are you talking about the interstate lines one, or what?
I might be talking about the interstate one. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Okay,
I've got
let
too
me
much
open
shit
it up.
open.
I've got
U.S.
it.
House to vote real abortion rights.
Now this.
Yeah, I think they're reintroducing the women's health care one again. They're reintroducing it. Yeah, HR 8297. Yeah, they're reintroducing that. And then they're also, trying to address this interstate travel situation. So it prohibits interference with access to or assistance for abortion care across state lines. So, it's another one of those stopgaps saying, if your state outlaws it, this law is going to protect you going into that state to get that. It's going to protect the person that drove you there. It's going to protect the doctor, all of that stuff. So to me, it's annoying that this legislation even has to exist right now, that we aren't going bigger. But, it's like all of these little tiny wickets that we have to fucking cross right now.
You know what frustrates me about this? I mean, maybe I understand that it's like, maybe it's easier to pass something that is more specific. And so this is talking specifically about abortion services. But one thing that has frustrated me in a number of different areas in the ways that Democrats legislate is that they will use a certain type of like moralist logic to lead to a conclusion. For example, I do think that the thing that leads to believing that this should be enshrined in law is the idea that no individual should be able to be prevented from going across state lines and then doing whatever is legal in those other states. I mean, that when you go to Colorado, you should absolutely be able to toke up that sweet, sweet Mary Jane, even if you're from fucking Alabama. I don't know where it's illegal at this point. But let's say it's illegal in Alabama. You should be able to do it in Colorado. But then when we put the legislation out there, we're like, but it's just about abortion rights. And then we're going to create a new problem in 5 years when there's another thing that we're trying to legislate against people going over state lines. And it's like, just say that, just enshrine the right to interstate travel and to be subject of the laws within whatever state. I mean, if you are in, it's not like your state laws follow you when you have rights. Like if I'm from Colorado, I can't smoke weed in Georgia, right? That if I bring weed into Georgia and the police pull me over and they find it, I have no right to protection under my state's laws, right? Because it's not a fucking country and I'm not an ambassador for the country, right? So it should just be enshrined. I don't know why we have to be specific about abortion here, and then just go.
I know.
When you enter a new state, you are subject to their laws, and the state where you are a citizen can't retaliate against you for doing something that is legal in the state where you are doing it. Just make it that. But it's this specificity that undermines the fact that we have a moral claim. It's the same thing when that I'm going to get completely on a tangent here, but in the Al Gore election with the fucking dingling shads, right? I mean, there was a legitimate moral claim about the hanging shads or whatever. There was a legit, like, there are votes that people went through the effort to vote for that weren't able to interpret, whatever needed to be interpreted surrounding dingling chads, right? That this was a legitimate complaint, and we should be counting all of the votes that we were able to clearly tell the intention of the votes, right? That is a great moral claim. And then went through the courts, and for the most part, the courts agreed with them. And then they dangled this carrot in front of him that showed the fact that it wasn't truly a moral claim. It was a claim about trying to win the election. And they dangled the carrot of, okay, which counties do you want to recount? And he didn't say, well, dangling chads were a problem in all of them, so recount all of them with this new basis. He selected the ones that were most likely to sway the election in his favor. You no longer have a moralist claim at that point. And that is what frustrates me about all of these pieces of democratic legislation, is that they'll run around saying, well, it's just not right that this thing, it's like, you should be the subject of whatever state's laws. And it's like, then legislate about that. And if you're frustrated about votes not being counted because of dangling shads, you should be frustrated about votes for Bush not being counted, okay?
Yeah.
Because you're a fan of democracy. But if you're going around saying you're a fan of democracy, and then the second you have a chance to undermine it, you take that opportunity just like the Republicans did, who am I fucking voting for?
Yeah, no, you are correct.
Fucking Gore.
He
was one mistake away. Okay, he was like, he probably could have won Florida if he just said all of the. I mean, it would have been a disaster, honestly, if the results of the election changed. It would have been a disaster. I'm not undermining that, but his case would have been made if he had just said, recount all of the districts in Florida. Fucking dork, bro.
Yep. But I also want to say right now, I mean, with the Supreme Court and the way that they've ruled things, and they're saying these things aren't specifically enumerated, which is very, like, I'm too stupid to interpret anything that isn't very clearly spelled out. It's like you have to say abortion specifically, or you have to say something that's clearly going to include abortion. Here's my question. Like, if we are protecting somebody's health care in general, what if they decide that they don't consider abortion health care? Because they don't, right?
Yep.
So it's almost like, well, who decides what the word healthcare means? It's like, it just keeps going and going and going. I mean, some people might not consider birth control healthcare. And we are already seeing, as much as there's plenty of people that are like, oh, this isn't going to affect, birth control. That's obviously a step too far. They're never going to go after birth control. And we're already seeing it. We're seeing, people who have appointments to get their IUDs put in. And suddenly the doctor's like, we canceled your appointment because stuff's weird here. We don't know what to do. We don't know if we'll get in trouble. For an IUD? Why would you get in trouble for an IUD? That's clearly not something that's already been legislated, but they're already so afraid. We already see, There's certain medications that you might take for your thyroid or for various other medical conditions. But if you are somebody who presents as though you would have a uterus, they're suddenly saying, sorry, we can't give you your medication anymore. We're not going to carry it anymore. Like Walgreens in particular seems to be taking all of these weird stances about what drugs they're no longer going to carry and they're no longer going to provide, to people with prescriptions for them.
Do you think, I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, so just stay with me. Do you think that these organizations clearly they're frustrated by the legislation and they're frustrated about how open-ended it is. And so even though I bet Walgreens knows that some of these medications, it would be absolutely no issue for them to, my dog's about to jump on the bed and I have a Coke here. Even though they know that there would be absolutely no issue, they're creating these issues in order to create the news story that it's just inhibiting everything, that women's health care overall is a problem in order to just like create a larger fuss. I do wonder.
Who do you think
Walgreens and these different medical institutions are interpreting it as strictly as they can in order to create a news story, in order to create, just like I think a bunch of the the healthcare insurances, when Obamacare was very unclear in the very start, there were some manufactured stories about, we just don't know what's going on. Oh my gosh, everything's crazy. And so I do wonder, that when I hear thyroid medication, I'm like, okay, I think that you are interpreting it intentionally strictly in order to create a story for a good cause. I'm on board with, making this like seem dumb as fuck, but
I want to agree with you, but it feels like they're making the opposite political stance to me. I would like to think that let me use this person as an example and take this medication that, is keeping them as a functional human being away from them to make a big point. No, and that's a dangerous stance to have. So I don't know. Just because some of these you wouldn't take while you were pregnant because they are abortive, but that's not the only purpose of the drug. So it's shady shit to me. And I guess I could go and let's find out who Walgreens donates money to. Who do they donate to? Do they donate to Republicans? Do they donate to Democrats? Do they donate to specific lobbying groups? Who does Walgreens hand their political influence to in the form of money? It would be interesting to find out. But that's a little bit of a sidetrack.
Yeah, I'm offering conjecture at this point. I've been deep in the Eric Adams soup recently because of that like how to deal with a nuke going off PSA.
Who's Eric Adams?
Eric Adams is the mayor of New York City. So write that name down because I'm going to be talking about how much I hate him for the next 4 years. And I have been talking about how much I hate him. He's a clown. He's a living clown. The best example of how much of a reactionary Democrat clown that isn't actually for change, but is for co-opting real movements that have maybe had some turmoil in producing actual results. But he'll co-opt these movements when it's convenient for him, but he's not actually a revolutionary. He's just using the name for it. He was in a race against two other individuals who were likely to beat him. There was a woman who was Latina, and then there was Andrew Yang, who was Asian. And towards the end, this is I will never stop talking about this. We have ranked choice in our mayoral election because we do actually care about democracy. It's crazy. And in a ranked choice election, you can actually see your candidates start to band together and say, hey, if you're voting for me, vote for this candidate down ballot, this candidate second, because if not me, this is who I endorse. And so you'll see opponents endorsing each other, which is kind of interesting. And you don't see that in non-ranked choice elections. And so Andrew Yang and this woman whose name I should really remember, but I don't, created towards the end, they created one of those agreements where, hey, if you're voting for Andrew Yang first, put her second. At that point, I think everyone kind of knew that Andrew Yang was not going to win. And so put this person second. And Eric Adams was so pissed off that they would create this alliance. That Eric Adams insinuated that this Latino woman and this Asian man were binding together because they were afraid of seeing a person of color win the mayoral election.
Wait, they were afraid. Wait, say that again?
He insinuated the reason that they had banded together, this Asian man and this Latina woman, the reason they had banded together was because they were afraid of a person of color winning the mayoral election. Eric Adams is black, I should emphasize.
Okay. What? Okay,
This
so
is
that was
in the myth.
three people of colors. You just said 3 different colored people, right?
Yep. What a fucking moron, right? And he's now the mayor. He won because, I mean, in the end, the like true like Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn Democrat is basically a fucking Republican. We're talking Union Democrats here, right? This is
Yes.
I would rejoice if the Republican Party just became the kind of Democrats that the like Queens Democrats are, right? Because at least I feel like I can debate with them. I mean, they might elect someone fucking like moron like Eric Adams, but yeah, he insinuated that he was trying to jump onto the bandwagon of, if you don't like Democrats, you're just a racist, and that insinuated in the middle of a huge boon of anti-Asian hate crime from black people
Right.
on Asian people, insinuated that Asian people were not actually people of color, and it was just like, oh, you're so fucking dumb. And then he won. And now he is on a distraction campaign because there's various corruption charges in his his cabinet, and a news organization that covers New York politics discovered that he had a secret office created for himself in one of the government buildings that people weren't supposed to know was Mayor Adams's, but a news organization found this like secret office that was overlooking New Jersey, which I mean, I don't even know if I have an opinion on it, but there's just this like boon of controversies that are coming out of the mayoral office right now. And then he released a PSA on what to do if a nuke hits New York City. It's like, if a nuke hits New York City, we're all dead. We live in the same 10-mile radius, bro. And they're not sending one nuke to New York City. This is where they nuke. We're the spot, baby. It's us and
Yeah.
DC.
I like when they're like, don't stay in your car. You need to get inside into a building. A car's not good enough. But it's like, if the nuke hits, you're not gonna be alive, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it depends on how
Maybe in
directly
fucking
you get hit.
Westchester.
If we're talking about fallout, then yeah, go get inside. But
That's
if it's a
definitely what
direct-
they're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, that there's the people that will be instantly evaporated, and they're not going to think at all. That the period between the nuke hitting and the various parts of their brain not existing, that period of time is not enough time for a thought to form. So they're good. Where like that, I mean, on the scale of things, one of the best ways to die, as long as you don't see the nuke falling, best way to die. I read somewhere that he keeps going on and on about crime, saying it's never been at this level when it's really way down. Yeah, it's definitely way down compared to the 80s. There's a huge narrative in New York right now that we're at like 80s levels of crime. We're at about double the crime that it was when I moved here, which is obviously a startling statistic. I've lived here for 3 years, and crime doubling in that amount of time is scary, but it's absolutely nowhere near what it was in the 80s and 90s. Now,
Yeah.
I have to balance that with the fact that if you ride the subway, your lived experience is not like everything's hunky-dory. Your lived experience is, oh my God, okay, getting off this train car constantly. Constant operation security on the MTA right now. So you do have to balance that, is that you can statistically know that crime is at a low rate right now, and also
See it with
be
your
on
own
the train
eyes.
and be like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I gotta leave. You start game planning, and there's in the very middle of the train, you can't, so you can walk between train cars while it's moving. You shouldn't, but you can. And this is, the rapscallions of the world. That's what they do. That's their thing, is that they're walking between train cars. But there's a middle car that you can't walk through. So you start game planning, and you go, okay, If I'm on the end cars, there's fewer people there, which means there's fewer opportunities for someone to be crazy, but also fewer bystanders, which might be good, might be bad. So end car, I have fewer probabilities, but I also have fewer escape routes because it's harder for me to get to another section of the train that you can't walk through. So if there's a crazy on this side of the train, I can't get. Whereas if I'm in the middle car and there's someone crazy, I just switch one train over and they can't walk through there. Bing, bang, boom. So the lived experience, admittedly, is a little bit different. I've got on a huge tangent. New York is a little bit nuts. Crime's not as bad as people say. Eric Adams is a moron.
Joe Biden's not that great either. I mean, he's what we got, though. He's what we got.
Kathy Hochul, also a moron, with her. Man, imagine. Okay, so what frustrates me?
Refresh me on who Kathy Hochul. Oh, she's the governor, right?
Okay. Governor of New York. Okay, so that what you'll hear New Yorkers talk about constantly is the interplay between the governor and the mayor, because, I mean, the governor cares a lot about the city. It's where a lot of the taxes come from, is the city. The mayor is like, but the city's mine, right? And so constantly the interplay is Cuomo and de Blasio, and now it's Hochul and Eric Adams. And one thing that's beautiful is
I know we haven't really said hi to anybody. Hi, Sarah.
I've been saying hi to people.
I've been doing a good job. Hi, Scotland. Hi, Diamond Girl. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Sarah Geneva. Did I miss anybody? I think I am all. Okay. Back to the governor and the mayor.
So one thing that I think is beautiful about New York is that people are actually involved in local politics. But that's only because it is actually, I mean, we live in a small country here. Okay. This is the
New York City is a small country.
Yeah. We have more people here than Belgium. Right. So this is, but yeah, that's the interplay. But what frustrates me about the Republicans is that they've arrived at the wrong conclusions, and so they're substantiating them, and you kind of are thinking like, I think that you're wrong, right? And I think you're lying, and that's why I hate you. Is that you've arrived at the wrong conclusions, and you've figured out that you can exploit a certain group of people by saying the right things. But I think you're lying right now, and I think that that this is not an effective conclusion. Here's what frustrates me about the Democrats is that they've been handed the grail of, for the most part, you have the right ideas, right? You have the ideas that statistics and many different elements support. And then to not use that effectively, to fumble the ball, right? When you've been given when everything has been written to help you on this, because you are on the side of logic for the most part, in like 80% of cases, I would say. You're on the side of logic, and then you refuse to use it.
Yep.
I'm like, what are you doing, man? And that's like, Kathy Hochul is like, I mean, the Supreme Court overruled the New York City's gun policies, which were insane. New York City's gun policies should have been overruled. It's a rare W for the current Supreme Court, but the gun policies were absolutely nuts. And so then the New York State legislature rushes to create new gun policies because their idea is that if you're able to access a concealed carry permit, that there's going to be way more shootings, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but better gun policies, whatever, right? You need a passport to get in. You needed a vaccine passport for a while. And I was strongly in support of that. So
we are heading
they rushed
that way
to create this gun legislation. And then, of course, they need to, it passes easily. It's a Democrat state, so it passes easily. But in the interview process afterwards, Kathy Hochul is asked, how do you think this is going to decrease gun violence? I mean, we were just in the wake of the Buffalo shooting. But the main thing was that all of this regulation was surrounding people that were attempting to get a concealed carry permit. And that didn't have anything to do with the Buffalo shooter. It really doesn't have anything to do with most shooters, right? The problem is access to guns for shooters. The people that are trying to get a permit seem to be future thinkers to me, right? They're thinking, if I get caught with this gun, I don't want to go to prison. Somebody that doesn't want to go to prison with their gun is very likely someone that doesn't want to shoot a bunch of people randomly, right? Because often those people go to prison, right? So that here's the difficulty here is that they passed all of this legislation around concealed carry permits, which much of which I agree with, right? I think to have a concealed carry permit, you should need to go through a ton of training to have that.
Or
And
at
so
least some.
16 hours of training, 2 hours of range shooting to get your concealed carry permit. That's one of the elements. I think that's great. I think the government should pay for it, but I think that's great. Then you need to interview with your sheriff, which the Democrats constantly, the ones that are like, police have a bias, police have that we can't trust individual humans to not exert a bias in any sort of a subjective case, right? And then we're saying, go to your local police station, which is populated by a very specific crowd, and then they can decide, and they don't have to substantiate their decision, whether or not they think that you're too risky to have a concealed carry permit. Do you think that might affect, that there might be some racial lines upon which those subjective decisions are made? I think there's a chance.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's exceptionally intrusive. That is the most. I've never heard
That's
any.
what most Democrat states have. Oh, most Democrat states require an interview.
I've never heard that. That is news to me.
Oh, it's absolutely the case over here. New England, Connecticut, absolutely. Pretty sure Massachusetts. That is very common in the blue states at this point. And the problem of the New York City law that was overturned is that you need to substantiate a reasonable reason that you needed a gun, which was essentially you need to be a celebrity, you need to have multiple and credible death threats against you, or you need to be armed for your job, like you are a bodyguard,
security.
Right?
Yeah.
That's an incredibly exclusive list of things that doesn't include anything about militias. And so,
it doesn't.
It doesn't. And that was the whole point of the amendment, whether or not it makes any fucking sense at this point. Anyway, Kathy Hochul is asked, do you have any evidence that having stricter laws surrounding people with concealed carry permits is going to actually prevent random gun violence, which is what this bill is named after? How many, I think that question was, how many of these mass shootings are carried out by somebody that has a concealed carry permit? What is the number? And Kathy Hochul goes, I don't need numbers to know that this is going to be effective. Why are you handing him that, bro? Why are you? Hey, if you want to call me an idiot, here's a fucking silver platter on which to stake that claim. What are you doing? There's so many good responses, but you're a moron. Oh my God. Now, admittedly, I don't think that the best legislation is surrounding concealed carry permits. I think that is the only time when I'm like, all right, well, I mean, why do you regulate specifically regulating responsible gun owners seems weird to me, right? Trying to get a permit seems like evidence that you're trying to be responsible. That doesn't seem like the best place to attack, but I think that the reality is that they know that there's no way they're going to pass any legislation on just being able to buy a gun and store it in your house. And that gets you 99.9% of the way to being able to be a school shooter.
Indeed it does. Oh.
All right, well, that was quite the 25-minute rant.
I mean, it was an interesting rant. Someday we'll talk about...
Why aren't the Democrats using their own tools, man? And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with, I can bring it back. It's the same thing with this fucking policy. So I'm like, just make it about crossing state lines and then try to entrance the Republicans with their own thing, right? Well, you should be able to go over state lines and buy a firework and set it off over there, right? Or create some fucking boogeyman that the Democrats are going to start prosecuting, people from Illinois that go to Indiana to shoot an assault weapon, right? They'll be like, oh my God, you can't do that. It's my sovereign right to go to Indiana and shoot an assault weapon. So just create a boogeyman and then get the Republicans on board about You can't punish people for crossing state lines. God.
Well, okay, so one of our amendments is it the I don't know which one. I don't want to think about it that hard which one it is. But it
14?
talks very much about being a citizen of the United States and also being a citizen of your specific state, right? That you fall under the rules of that state. And so I always find that to be weird that they've specified that. And my concern is if you're watching what's happening in the world, or in America specifically, if you're watching what's happening in America, that it feels like as we see all of this abortion legislation and trans legislation, all of this stuff happening, is that they're trying to take the power away from the federal government and bring it back to the states. And it feels like completely decentralize our government. And we'll all be a bunch of individual states with individual laws again, and that the only thing our federal government will be responsible for is the military. That's what it feels like to me, is the move that they want to do. And so I do
you
find
think
that
they actually want that?
I do think they actually want that, but I don't understand
so
the
weird
end
to me.
game. Because what does America look like if we're all like, I'm a citizen of the state of Virginia? Like, what does that look like? How does that separating us all into these smaller, I guess, more controllable and manageable factions with local overlords? It's really weird to me that that's the direction that it feels like is the push in my mind. That's what I'm seeing. I just don't understand the end game, and I don't understand why regular people are buying into it, or maybe they're not buying into it, but why they're letting it happen. Like, do they not see it when they talk about states' rights and stuff like that? What does it look like in their heads? Because I don't get it. I don't understand what you want America to look like and how that's going to help any American at all to have us all divided into little pockets like that.
I always thought it was a false goal. I thought it was we were going to be states' rights as long as it, as the vector of the direction that states' rights sends us is closer to the policies that we want on a national level, right? Abortion at the time is legal on a national level. It's required to be legal on a national level. And I will be pro states' rights as long as that gets us to less abortion happening. And then as soon as states' rights stops doing that for me, I'm not about states' rights. I'm about abortion should be illegal, right? And we just changed the goal. That was what I had always assumed that the hopes were.
And that's the problem, is that we didn't take any of this stuff seriously because it doesn't make any sense to us, right? I think there's also there's kind of this culture, right, that after the Civil War, they didn't believe the Civil War was over. It didn't end for them. They still believe in states' rights, right? And so what does that mean? If the South didn't really lose, if it's really all about states' rights, what's the end fucking goal? I don't know. I don't get it because I'm not over there, but I do think that it is foolish for us to not think that they're telling us the truth when they say shit like that. Just like...
I guess, but it's like that. Don't they see their own numbers, right? And it has been for years, Democrat states that are lifting up the local governments of red states, right? And it's Democratic cities that are supporting the local governments of their Republican small cities. And the economy is getting ever more concentrated in urban supercenters that are Democrat run. And so I guess my question is, I've heard this Democrat line, which is like, if they want states' rights, more money for our social programs. But the issue is that to be a Democrat is to be actually empathetic to people and to believe that suffering in my backyard is as bad as suffering in Virginia. Like, I don't want a 10-year-old girl to be raped and then forced to carry a child to term in Indiana, just like I don't want my neighbor 10-year-old. That it's still a person, whether or not it's proximal to me, right? And so the issue is with that logic is that it doesn't actually follow the Democratic mindset. But
it doesn't.
They're going to end up shooting themselves in the foot and live in these, second world countries at the best, if they're trying to create social programs to lift up the rural communities. What are you doing?
I agree with you, but listen, you got to start looking at all the weird shit going on in the world, right? Like, do certain states control certain commodities? Um, we're watching the housing market. We're watching houses get scooped up, where there's nowhere left for people to live without spending a ridiculous amount of money. Like, there's just all these weird things going on in the world right now that it's really hard to connect the dots on. And I'm being very conspiratorial at the moment, but something's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I've been saying it for a while. Something's going on. I don't get it, right? And right now, it seems to be about women, right? And basically dehumanizing women to a certain degree, because if you have a baby, what's right for you doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is that baby right now for some fucking reason. And it's weird. And I don't know, there's a part of me that's like, are you guys afraid of women? It feels like we've had centuries of being afraid of women, of creating a culture that divides women, right? The only way a woman can make it through the world is by attaching herself to a man, right? But previously, and now women are not doing that so much, right? We're starting to detach ourselves and find our own power. But it's also really hard. Like, you hear all the time, women have a hard time, finding their group. There's always fighting and infighting. There's always, like, this idea of women supporting women. Like, it's nice in concept, but in reality, what does it look like? Does it even exist? Because we have been separated from each other for so long on purpose, right? If you're not pretty, and we're competing for beauty, right? Because being beautiful gets us access to a more powerful man that will make our lives better and our children's lives better. It just goes on and on and on. Like, how do you survive? Being beautiful was an asset that you had, right? Being smart, well, keep that shit on the down low, because being smart makes you dangerous. So, be sweet, shut the fuck up, and, try to be as beautiful as you can to get yourself a good man, to keep yourself. I mean, there's just all of this weird shit that has gone on in women's culture for centuries that has kept us around and alive. And we don't, and we have a hard time uniting, because it's just, we've always been pitted against each other forever. Pitted against each other, pitted against each other, pitted against each other.
So I'm gonna
what
say
would happen if we united? Because we're
point.
fucking nasty. Women can be exceptionally nasty and evil. And I watch it in the John Yates community. You watch women that will go to endless lengths to destroy somebody. Now, if all women got together and started destroying the correct people, if we work together for things that benefit, women, and I mean, I realize you're not a woman, but I mean, ultimately, I'm of the belief that raising women up ultimately raises men up as well, right? Good quality men, teaching men how to be normal and respectful of women makes your lives better as well, Making you guys less reliant on these traditional male roles and just getting to be who you are fucking benefits you too. Seeing yourself as an equal partner with a fully formed personality, and that your whole job isn't just to, acquire a quality woman so that you can acquire offsprings, and she's going to raise those offsprings hopefully well, but your job is all about money, but maybe you fucking want to be about something else. Maybe you want to be around your kids. You don't want to spend all day, in the factory, whatever a traditional model was. I realize I'm the one ranting now, but I'm just saying. I just feel like, I don't know.
All right,
Traditional roles are bullshit.
I'm going to put together. Okay, so one thing is that I see your point, and I think that you may be onto something, but I do worry about falling into the cliff of conspiracy, and then just everything is ulterior and whatnot. But I'm about to say some things that I think are probably going to endorse your point.
Okay.
So a disclaimer at the beginning of what Colin's about to say, he might not agree with his own words. Okay. So there is a school of economists right now that predicts a certain American doomsday because of a declining birth rate among our young people, and the fact that we essentially we will very soon not have enough young people to fill the jobs that are needed of young people, to create the taxes and to support the social infrastructure for our older people. And our older people are living longer. And there's a school of economic thought right now that we are approaching, just like climate change. Once it gets past a certain number of degrees, things start to cause themselves, and that we get a snowball rolling down a hill. Or a boulder rolling down a hill. There's no stopping it at this point. There is a school of economic thought right now that so few young people are being born right now that there's no boom, that it's going to cause a serious economic downturn, and a serious problem for the country. So that's one element that I think might be hitting those points. Another element is that women have been banding together and attacking often monsters and also people that they think are monsters. And this is what we've called cancel culture. But
Absolutely.
there have been a lot of great men that have been taken down by this, and so they are beginning to see the actual power of women and women banding together and attempting to take down the stuff. So I think that might cause some fear, right? I also think that we saw a massive decline in crime over the last 35 years. And what a lot of the people in power found is that when we didn't have crime to produce fear in our lower and middle classes, they had more time to think about who is the actual problem and to think about the different issues that are going on in the country and to actually observe the systems and learn about the systems. And while that was okay for a little while, we've discovered that suddenly an entire class of people have banded together through social media and things like that to
That had not been
create
banded together
change.
previously.
To create change, often with no like real plan. They have not. We haven't really unionized in a way that has a structure and has a definitive strategy. But if I were the people in power, what I would be afraid of is be like, look at how effective they are with no strategy, right? With essentially a claim bubbling up from the social media ether and it being propped up and lifted up by Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. And then everyone just, fuck this thing, right? Fuck this thing. And it's working, right? Our largest companies are buckling under the pressure of these different disorganized efforts. And so if I'm the people in power, I'm a little bit worried about what if they get a strategy, right? What if a strategy is the next thing that Twitter puts in front of all of them? What if a really compelling strategy is the thing that gets put in front of them? Okay, well, we know a couple things, right? We know the fact that women have been able to collect their independence and they've been able to put off being a mother or deny the fact that it's even necessary that you become a mother. We have seen them fear crime less and be able to redirect their woes because the woes still exist, even though the fear of crime has decreased. We've seen them be able to access the economy more effectively than men. Men are finishing college educations at a way lower rate than women, and women are being admitted to colleges at a higher rate than men. And we have seen that declining abortion an increase in abortion declined the amount of crime. And it's like, all right, we need to create a new boogeyman. For a while, racism has been an effective boogeyman, I think. I think for a while, we've been able to disorganize the groups that they're worried about organizing by saying, the poor group over here, the poor group over there hates you. And you've never met them, so you can believe that for sure, right? They just hate you. And they just hate you because you look like this, right? And racism, it's a bigger deal now than it was in the 80s and the 90s, right? Racism is the number one thing. And this boogeyman has gotten them some mileage to re-strategize and to say, all right, we need to find a system to create a new boogeyman, because as soon as they strategize, I think that there's a real worry here that we're going to see a shakeup.
I mean, racism, you're not saying racism isn't real. You're saying that racism is being exploited as a distractor.
Yes,
what is it
I'm
that you're
saying that, but it would be absolutely nuts to say racism isn't real. I think that the boogeyman of racism has been overblown in a lot of leftist chats, right? I think that they have changed the mile marker for racism, right? And now ignorance is racism, right? It's not it's racism isn't merely hating someone for their race and thinking you're right. It's subconsciously having feelings about race, right? And it's being ignorant about issues of race. And it's not measuring up to the status quo on where the line is. That's
Right.
what racism is now. And as soon as you redefine the bounds of racism, suddenly a much bigger group of people are racist, right? Because I do think 30% of Americans don't see the problem with, dressing up their white daughter as Mulan, right? And maybe that is ignorance. And then they go, well, if that ignorance is racism, 30% of the country is racist. Here's the boogeyman. And here, we've given you the boogeyman. And you never talk to people from Mississippi, you fucking New York person, right? You never talk to people from Mississippi. We
Right.
talk to people from the South, never. Do you know who moves to New York? People from Ohio, okay? No one, I can't remember the last time that I met someone from South Carolina, okay? They're not here. They're staying down there because they've been given their own boogeyman, which is Democrats, who are
Right.
basically communists. They've bought in to the Chinese scheme, and they are trying to take away all of your rights and freedoms and your ability to speak freely, right? And for right now, we both have our boogeyman, and our boogeyman is each other, right? And real racism exists, right? And real, I don't know, China sympathizers exist. I don't know. Real people that think that free speech, real people that think that free speech should be overregulated exists, and that these people exist on other side of the aisle. But the fear has been overblown so that we can hate each other. And that's getting them some mileage right now. But I think that they know that with enough time, we start figuring out how to build guillotines. So I think that they're a little bit worried about that, and maybe this is the strategy.
Who are we using the guillotines on? We're using it on them, the people that are trying to convince us that, or are we doing what they want and we're going after each other?
The rich. What they want is us going after each other, right? They want us to believe that there's just a league of criminals, right? I think this is one of the reasons that they've really decreased access to different social programs of homeless people, right? Or it could be one of the reasons, right? Is that they want you to think that the thing that you have to fear is a league of criminals that are in your area that are constantly trying to take your rights away from you. Meanwhile, they're at the top and they're taking your rights away from you. But they're doing it in a very strategic way because they have a much smaller group and a much more inside group, and they are all on board with the same task, and they go, all right, here's how we do it. Here's how we do it. Oh, look at that. Very good, right? Let's tell them that everyone from Georgia is racist, even though it was a blue state last year. All right,
Yeah. It's interesting when you're talking about money, too. And I think people definitely have
money.
Yeah, but people have a real fear, regardless of how much money you make, you have a fear of somebody else taking your money, right? Whether it be the inflation, we have to blame somebody for inflation, or whether it be I'm being taxed too much and this money is being given to somebody who, in my opinion, isn't working hard enough. I'm working hard for my money. Why do I have to give to social programs that I don't benefit from necessarily? So I think that's another boogeyman that is created all the time, is this idea of a lazy person, very often a lazy Democrat, but also let's talk about, if a woman does choose to have the baby, right, but she can't afford to have it, and now she might want to lean on social services to help her, get through those hurdles. But we don't want to give that to her, right? America at large doesn't. The people that are anti-choice, we'll say that. The people that are anti-choice don't want to pay for the results of that birth, right? They're like, well, you should have thought of all of those things, regardless of the situation.
Well, it's also, based in this conspiracy hellscape that I'm concocting right now, it's also useful for them to not help you, right? Right now, with this new clock that they've created, they have about 16 to 18 years until we see a massive influx of crime, right? And as soon as crime peaks, people start voting for status quo and they start voting for law and order, and those are very good at keeping things effective. And so they have about 16 years where they need to tread water as things get worse, right? And the only way that it increases crime is if those babies that are unwanted are born into families that don't have access to social programs that allow them to live comfortably. As soon as they live comfortably, the crime rate goes down. As soon as they live comfortably, those children are able to think about the systems that were in place that caused all of these problems, and they're back in the same fucking shit box, right? So without a war to start, we increase the crime, and the only way to increase the crime is to make sure that those people are in a real fucked place. And so when you hear the Democrats being like, what this really is it's preventing poor people from getting abortions. Yeah, exactly.
That's the point.
And those kids, if they're not criminals, what they're going to do is they're going to work for minimum wage, and they're going to how do you have time to think about how the system is pent up against you when you have to be worried about food being put on your table, and you're in a cycle of debt, and it's impossible for you to own any property, right? You are the new version of a wage slave, right? This is what they're trying to regulate slavery out of our prisons. So let's just create new slaves out here, right? Yep. And the best kind of a slave is one that can't think for themselves. So how do you keep them from thinking for themselves? Keep them hungry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep.
I like the lazy immigrants are boogeymen. Absolutely. Immigration is exploited a lot. Absolutely. All of those things are absolutely true. And I mean, along those lines, we're starting to hear talk about this idea that being born in the United States doesn't automatically make you a citizen. This is a new movement that they're also trying to push forward. And, it sounds like it's about immigration, right? Because, sometimes, what do we call them? Anchor babies, right? The evil anchor baby that's keeping its immigrant parents in the United States to exploit the system because they're lazy immigrants or whatever is nuts. Being born here is going to start being not enough. Not enough. What's the end game? So you're saying chaos is the end game? That's the only way to keep capitalism moving, is to fucking just make us a hellscape further? I don't get it. Explain.
I think that chaos is the engine. I think that. Well, I'm okay. I keep saying I think that. I am not dedicating to any of these things being my thoughts. Okay, I'm just following a thread of thought based upon what you had built up. I think that. I think that there would be a monumental shift if every individual in a democratic society was able to truly think about the mechanisms that have put them in the place that they are, right? And as much as we've said that that's the point, that we would love if everyone was democratically involved, I think that they're a little worried now that it's right in front of them, right?
Anchor babies aren't a thing? Did we get rid of that? It seems like, but that's, I also feel like there's an entire group of Republicans that are really still stuck back in the 80s in their mindsets. They liked Ronald Reagan. They felt good under Ronald Reagan. And so we're starting to hear like all of this old stuff that these old talking points are kind of resurfacing in a new way. And it's so bizarre. And it's scary because I just feel like behind the scenes, there have been things put into motion to make some of this stuff happen. The fact that there was so much abortion legislation happening simultaneously so that it would get challenged, so that it would go to the Supreme Court, that they purposely stacked. I mean, this is a real chess match here that, liberals didn't believe was happening or wouldn't believe was happening enough.
Well, a certain league of liberals, I will say. I mean, at least that seemed clear.
Legislatures.
What they're trying to do. Yeah.
But the ones that were making the laws, what were they doing? It's so frustrating.
They were profiting from their own boogeyman, which is the Republicans. The Democrats have the best boogeyman ever because in the case of Mitch McConnell, it literally looks like something that would hide under your fucking bed, right? So they're living the life right now. And the worst thing that they can do is overcome the Republicans. Who's going to vote for them then? They're ineffectual fucking slobs. They suck. They're part of the same league. They're basically goddamn Republicans. Okay? While the entire country has shifted left, right? And we're hearing the death knell of the far right in the country. our entire political system has shifted right, because it's not a just like the police. Let's connect it to our other things. Just like the police are an instrument of our rich and of our property holders, and just like just like every element, the judicial system is not meant to provide justice anymore. It's meant to provide various individual, like cheap labor in their prisons. And it's not about justice. It's about creating plea deals, and it's about decreasing government costs. Each element of this, the elected officials and the government, is not set up for the actual electorate. It's set up to protect the interests of the most rich. And that's black, white, or
Our whole
brown.
country.
Okay. It doesn't have anything to do. Okay. That would be a bombastic statement. It has very little to do with the race of the individuals, right? It's about the fucking money. Okay. It's about the fucking money. And here's the other thing. The rich, the real talk rich, okay? The Phillips Exeter, Phillips Andover, Deerfield, fucking Harvard rich, okay? Those rich have never met you.
Nope.
They haven't, okay? I felt like a fucking pet at MIT, and MIT isn't even as bad as most of the Ivies, okay? They have never met you. They never hung out with you. The only thing they know about you is the same boogeyman that we're fed about the projects, right? And about, well, you can't walk through Compton and all that. I mean, admittedly, don't walk through Compton. But they have that same thing, that public schools are cesspools. They think that you're fucking animals, okay? They think it's nuts that anyone escapes it. They think the reason that they are in the position that they are is because they are bred of a different stuff. They think that they are bred of hard work, right? The reason they're rich, the only reason you can be rich in a capitalist society, is because hard work got you there. And the reason that you guys are in the mud and in the troughs and you're just eating up that pig slop called McDonald's is that you guys didn't work. And of course you won't work either, because you're made of the same material. You're made of the same genetic material. And we'll let in a couple of you from fucking Utah and Arkansas. We'll let in your best as a show of goodwill, right? But the jobs that are promised to you if you go to a Harvard or an MIT, it's not because you went to MIT, not unless you do a wage laborer job like a software engineer. You can get a job then. But the real jobs that you're supposed to get out of Harvard and MIT, we already knew who was going to get them, because it's my nephew. Because we're all in the new kingdom. Okay, we all have the sovereign right to this kingdom. We are the princes and princesses. I like
princes
that. The princes and princesses. We're the princesses and princesses of this new empire, of the American empire. We're the only way that we're different is in name. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll invite you in, and we'll listen to your stories, and we'll be like, it's crazy that you dealt with that. Your parents were in the military? Like, I thought that only morons were in the military. How did you come out of that? Wow. Maybe you were adopted, right? I mean, it's completely fucking nuts. What's that? Oh. Wait, they were enlisted? Oh my God. Right? It's
wow.
I hate these.
It does kind of put, if you're watching any of the January 6th hearings, it puts some of that into context, right? Because it's very clear that Trump wanted to be able to use the plebes to keep him in power, right? Because that's where their benefit is being able to amass human, battering rams to take over, the election, to say that he won. He wants to establish himself as an oligarch. That's what he wanted to do. It's very clear. And when you talk about your experience as a not rich person attending one of these colleges, it's got to hit differently for you, when you actually see the mindset.
And I can only imagine what it would have been at one of the real rich person colleges. Okay. MIT is like a glorified wage laborer college still, because it's making engineers, right? Engineers don't run the companies. They don't become politicians. They don't become lobbyists. They do not sit in the halls of American empire. Engineers are just the smart ones that work for those people. And so in the end, I didn't even truly experience it. I only experienced a taste of it, and I experienced the fuck ups of the schools that were supposed to, have taken these kids, right? There it was still, 50% these rich motherfuckers who are, by the way, if you're afraid of them, they are so dumb. They're the dumbest people alive. So it's I already put that up, Mom.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry.
It's just another level. They and I didn't even fully experience it, but I did get a taste of it. I did get a taste of the true rich that were there, because they were on all of the athletic teams, and they were in the fraternities, and I accidentally sunk into the group that was in those rich communities. I did not hang out in the engineer hall and in the hall where all of the like people with, let's be honest, full-on autism hung out, that would actually end up designing the products that all of these uber rich were going to profit off of. But oh man. Yeah.
So let me see.
Oh wait, here. Should I put the amendment up?
You can. I need a potty break, so I was just gonna like send you a video. It's just play this really quick. I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
But now I've lost it. Let's see. How do I use my phone? One second. Well, that's too long. These are very long. Holy cheese balls. Has he been giving very long speeches? It's hard to imagine that Biden can actually hold it together for that long. Okay, here.
We should probably actually watch these speeches, because the experience is always very different from like what you've been told the experience is.
Yes.
Because I remember watching my first Trump speech, and I swear it was 3 years into his presidency. And I was like, this does sound different than I expected. I still think he's a moron, but it was not.
So this one's only
I expected.
Yeah, this one's like 7 minutes. It's about Biden's executive order on abortion rights. And I need to pee, so I feel like that's a nice one.
The video?
I think I sent it to you.
Do you text it? Oh, there it is.
So we can all have a quick intermission.
Okay.
But also listen while intermissioning.
Can you see the screen?
I see the how to build a guillotine right now. I don't.
Okay. You're just not.
How to build a guillotine.
It's like it, man. Sometimes the jokes just don't land, man. Okay.
I agree, Ashley. Biden isn't as awful as speaking. Like, they keep showing that one clip in the middle of the speech, but if you listen to the whole speech, you're like, it was fine.
I don't even care if he's bad. He's so old. Get him out of office.
I don't disagree with that either. But you just explained why we need him there, or why not why we need him there, but why we are in the mess we are in, because old people need more young people to feed them in their old age, because they're living too long.
The thing is that Gen X is just so complacent, man. Like, Gen X, I must have been beaten down by their Vietnam vet parents, and they're just they're all dealing with their own trauma. Because did you see the most recent that Bill Burr just came out with a new special, and he talks a lot about his trauma with his parents, and he was born in 1968, so he's right in the same generation as you and Dad. He's a little bit older, and he was talking about how different your relationship with your father was when you were growing up in that era. And now what's interesting is that I think that you and Dad had different relationships with your fathers than the average Gen Xer. But Bill Burr talked a lot about how, like, he sees kids that are like, oh my God, Dad, let's play. Oh, I love you, Dad, right? And when he was a kid, it was like, oh fuck, dad's coming home, fuck, and
Yeah.
the trauma of having a traumatized parent, really.
Well, there's that, but there's also like the idea that we kind of raised ourselves. There were so many latchkey kids. Your parents didn't really give a shit about your grades. I mean, not really. Like sometimes they did, but it was your fucking problem, basically. If you got bad grades, that was your problem. Your parents didn't help you fill out college applications. They weren't on you about your deadlines. You filled that out yourself, and you went or you didn't went, or you didn't go. Like it was all on you because your parents either didn't know how to do it or didn't care because they grew up in just a different time period, like it was all new to them. They didn't know how to do it. They weren't taught how to do it. So they can't teach you. So it was a weird time to grow up for sure. Even with above average parents, it was a weird time to grow up.
And it's like, now you guys don't believe that you can be politicians. And I'm like, you guys need to be replacing these fucking monster politicians, please.
We do.
And you're all like, oh, I can't do anything. Government doesn't work.
So,
and the millennials aren't old enough yet.
The millennials are old enough, at least not to be president,
barely.
But they're old enough. Yeah, they're barely enough, but they can run for office. But
but they haven't. They haven't had time to create their political careers.
Sure. No, I think I'm on phase one. I'm on phase one right now, which was I went and got a driver's license for the state of Mississippi. Hooray for presidents! Yay!
Remember your old username, Mom?
Shh. I've always had secret political aspirations, but you got to start somewhere, and I haven't started anywhere. And I'm currently living in Mississippi, but I hadn't switched over my driver's license. But I'm like, I need to be able to vote where I live, so let me do the first thing: get my driver's license, be able to vote.
Mayor of Ocean Springs.
Dude, it's so political down here. It would be pretty difficult for me to get in. I would have to probably start somewhere stupider than the mayor, but
Nah, TikTok campaign.
It would be interesting. All right, we ready? Let's have a quick intermission.
Yep, go pee.
Okay, let me mute so you can't hear me peeing.
2 weeks after the Supreme Court struck down Roe versus Wade, the president said this.
What we're witnessing wasn't a constitutional judgment. It was an exercise in raw political power. We need 2 additional pro-choice senators and a pro-choice House to codify Roe as federal law. Your vote can make that a reality. I know it's frustrating, and it made a lot of people very angry, but the truth is this, and it's not just me saying it, it's what the court said. When you read the decision, the court has made clear it will not protect the rights of women.
The president said this court has made it clear, quote, it will not protect the rights of women. The answer, Biden said, is for us to vote. But in the meantime, his executive order aims to expand access to abortion pills, protect access to contraception, and ensure adequate emergency medical care for patients. This comes at a time when the need could not be more urgent, with abortion now banned in at least 8 states and with bans pending in at least 10 more. The latest in Mississippi, where the state's only abortion clinic shut its doors on Thursday. Biden's executive order also comes after mounting criticism from some Democrats over the administration's tepid response to the Supreme Court ruling. And it raises the questions of whether the president will also heed the calls of progressive members of Congress to use executive orders for bold action on other issues like student debt, immigration, and climate change. Here to break it all down with us is Dr. Katie McHugh, an OBGYN and reproductive rights advocate, and Rick Tyler, and a good friend on MSNBC political analyst. Doctor, let me start with you. What do you make of this executive order? And is it enough?
The executive order is a great start. I do wish it had more urgency. The patients that we see and the people that we care for, they need action now. They need protection now. So while I'm so glad for some protection around the issues of medication, abortion access, and protection around travel out of state, I do wish we could see more broad protections and more urgency in this matter.
So, Rick, one of the things that I found striking is that he's using this as an opportunity to use his pen for executive action to communicate at minimum where he stands on abortion care. Can we expect him to do something similar to what Trump did? I mean, Trump used the power of the pen to communicate to his supporters what his priorities were, even if he knew that they were going to be thrown out in court. He would make it the court's problem. Can we see the president doing this now, not just on abortion care, but on immigration, perhaps, or even on gun reform and climate change?
Sure, he could, and he is doing it on the Roe decision. But like Trump, it outlines an inherent weakness that the many things under presidents are often out of their control. Court decisions are often out of their control. He's trying to bring things into their control, but he's mostly trying to convey to his supporters and his critics, largely on the left. The right is always going to be a critic. That he is doing something, because many people are upset about the way that Biden is governing. And I suspect if we had a parliamentary system, you'd see Joe Biden right where Boris Johnson was yesterday. I think he would be ousted by his own party.
So if you were advising the president, will you tell him to use the power of the pen more often, Rick?
I think what the president has to do is learn that he's got to get out of this legislative mindset of this process-driven process. The president has a powerful bully pulpit that he can use to convince the country of the direction in which he's going. The problem is he hasn't articulated a very strong vision that has a majoritarian view. Yes, critics on the right will always criticize him, and he'll have some critics on the left. But if he can get a majoritarian view that is a large percentage of Democrats to support his view, his vision, and people in the middle, and maybe some on the right, then he will have a governing mandate. But as it is now, he keeps picking issues that are divisive. Abortion is a divisive issue. It cuts down the middle. I don't think it's going to have much effect one way or the other in midterm elections. Yes, some people, single issue voters on both sides, will be motivated to vote, but they'll both cancel each other out. It's not a winning issue for a presidential mandate.
I don't know if the majority of folks are straight down the middle on that. We know the majority of Americans actually do believe in abortion access, both men and women. But I do want to ask you, Dr. McHugh, specifically on how we're finding news now that women, for example, if they take certain medication, they may be denied it because it can cause a miscarriage. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a great example of how legislative interference in the medical process has far-reaching impact that non-medical people could not anticipate. When we tried to legislate medications around issues of pregnancy, then people who have the ability to become pregnant will be denied basic health care like the medications you're referring to. The pharmacies and the physicians and the people who are trying to provide health care are worried for their own safety and their own legal status as they are trying to navigate this new world that we live in post-Roe.
So, Rick, I want to ask you, because I thought one of the things that was so striking with the president is that he said, quote, and I heard we said this at the beginning of the hour, quote, what we're here witnessing wasn't a constitutional judgment. It was an exercise in raw political power. Here he is talking about a court that is supposed to be non-political and laying out that we now have an activist court. What is that tone, and how does that implicate the court in itself of being now impartial?
Well, I don't think that's true. And I'm surprised that the media is so surprised that the conservative court would actually have conservative rulings one after the other. And in fact, the right or conservatives could argue that it is Biden who is exerting raw political power by trying to override the court's decisions by executive order. He can certainly do that. And in fact, it is a tool that he can use, but it's a weak tool because any of the next presidents in line can easily withdraw those mandates. They're not codified into law. Remember, the Congress had nearly 50 years to codify Roe into law. They never did it. They could have done it in 2008 when Barack Obama had almost the majority in the Senate and two pro-choice Republicans. He didn't do it. And now they're scrambling to get it done. But this decision, remember, goes back to the states. I didn't say that to clarify that their access to abortion may or may not have a majoritarian position. What I'm saying is that in the political sense, people, when they actually go out to vote, what motivates them to vote or cast their ballot, that is a small percentage. And those people do indeed cancel each other out. But if you look at the states, the majority of states actually have restriction to abortion, and only a minority, about 13, maybe 16 states have actually codified Roe into law in their own states, but most have not, and most have restrictions.
Hello.
Hello. That wasn't the video I thought I was handing you. Oh well, that's okay.
What did you think you were handing me?
I thought I was handing you one where he was actually giving a speech. Oh
He
well.
gave a speech at like the very beginning, but it was literally like 30 seconds of it.
Oh well, that's okay. I mean, it was kind of interesting. That guy was annoying, but also he did make some interesting points about. Yeah, we've had 50 years to codify this, and we haven't. And I think because nobody wanted to touch it, right? It was like,
Yep.
yeah. So here we are in this hot mess.
Oh, have I been ranting too much? God.
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Probably just vaulted my political career by admitting that I believe that the rich are engaged in a conspiracy to prevent the poor from realizing we're more alike to each other than I say we and I say the poor. I'm now patently upper middle class, but you know.
Right, but you know, the 1% are the 1%. The reality is 99% of everybody else seems to, in my mind, should be more important. You know, all of those votes matter and count. So
yep.
if you really did have political aspirations, yes, money's great. Somebody funding your campaign would be great, but the votes are going to be the people. And these days, there's so many ways to reach people. You know, I guess you have to really hope you go viral, but, you know, maybe someday. Maybe someday. Oh, hello. You got your shoulders out.
Yeah.
All right. So do we want to look at what we've written so far, or do we want to look at, what was the other one I sent you? New York has...
yeah, the New York one. I mean, it was so vague. Just like, just whatever. I mean, it brings up some interesting questions, I feel, but yeah, I'm not going to share it. But
yeah, New York has, their state government has, they're pushing through an amendment to codify Roe, basically. And let's see.
What? That is not what this is.
Oh, wait. No, that's not what this one is. What is this one? I can't remember.
I'll just read it.
I've looked at too many things. Okay.
I'll just read it. Provides that no person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state or any subdivision thereof. Provides no person shall, because of race, color, ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, creed, religion, or sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, pregnancy outcomes, reproductive health care, and autonomy, be subjected to any... I do feel like this doesn't make... This is like not... Anyway. Be subjected to any discrimination in their civil rights by any other person or by any firm, corporation, or institution, or by the state or any agency or subdivision of the state.
Okay. So you can't be discriminated against, and reproductive care and autonomy. Kind of weird. Oh, Ashley says, yeah.
Fuck yeah, bro. I don't know which one you found, but if it was agonist, thank you. And you know, if you it often leads to questions, so I will answer those questions. But the opinions stated in that were not my opinions. There are a bunch of songs written from the perspectives of people I consider to not be good people. But actually, kind of related to this, you know, it's a bunch of different mentalities that lead to kind of like a recursive pattern of creating trauma. In this case, sexual assault.
Halo's what I clicked first.
That's a good one to click first.
Your halo. Yep.
I like that you censor it.
No.
My mom sings the censored version of it.
Oh, my bad. I ain't fucking with your halo.
I would say hose, halos, and Hennessy. That's the song. Look, I'm gonna brag about my album if you're gonna let me brag about my album. And that's the song written from the perspective of a megachurch pastor, drawing a through line, an analogy to the uber rich, rappers who tout a certain lifestyle despite representing a completely antithetical sort of morality. So, but yeah, it's from the perspective of a megachurch pastor telling Jesus to fuck off with all of his morals because he's found a way to exploit the thing that was originally for this moral goal, and he's really enjoying himself doing that.
Yep.
So he's not fucking with your halo, Jesus. And he's not fucking with your bread. Analogies, a little bread with the Jesus, a little bread with the moolah, with the loaf, with the fucking wrappers, with the dough, I'm fucking saying. 2 meanings.
It was a fun sidetrack. Okay,
Yep.
Should we get back to our amendment? Where are we?
Well, it's actually the mine amendment. I live in New York. I don't know if you guys know, but I live in New York. So yeah, I mean, it's like, it's basically just their constitution had not, there's this push in many different Democratic legislatures who have realized that just because certain protections they assumed would be protected by the courts were there, they hadn't codified a bunch of different things into their constitutions. And so now they're including protections around abortion, which I believe New York has already passed. And now this is an equal rights protection. Now, the thing about putting this in the Constitution is that I do think it opens up a lot of different programs to being sued. Do I think that's bad? I'm not taking a position on that. But if I were an, anti-affirmative action Republican politician, I would look at this and I would start doing some of this with my fingers and I'd go, is that so? And then the second that it gets passed, I would sue the living shit out of our public school system and go, you can't ask for the race of any of your applicants because that would lead to discrimination on the basis of race, which is against your Constitution. So
that's an interesting point. I mean, they would argue, but we're not discriminating. We're just using it as a factor to create the whole picture. Yeah, I don't know. Ashley thought that you were the one that liked Hose and Hennessy.
Yes, this is the problem with releasing an album like that, is that there's a lot of opinions I profess to in that are not my opinion. Nope. Now, if you listen to all the lyrics, you'd be like, well, it would be impossible to have all of these opinions because several of them are opposing. But I don't know. I don't think a lot of people listen to music and like really listen to the lyrics, especially the first time. And Halo does say some Hose and Hennessy type stuff. It also says I'm going to move to California, which I'm never going to do. Okay, fuck that place. East Coast for life.
Why are you mad at California?
East Coast. I don't like when people are nice to me.
They are too nice there. I agree. It's awful.
Makes me all uncomfortable and shit. I'm like, why are you talking to me?
All right. How about ours? Let's pull up the one that we've started working on.
All right.
We can do what we came here for.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay.
Okay. The right to privacy being an issue of individual freedom grants said individual freedom from intrusion into their bodily autonomy or personal relationships, except in the case where they may infringe on another's rights, the public right to safety, except where there is a reasonable alternative. Oh, this sounds better than I remembered. Also different than I remembered.
This is exactly what was on the screen the whole time, and you had a boogeyman, Mom. You had a boogeyman of what the amendment was.
Well, but it is the question, right? And that. Well, but I mean, as we started, looking at all of the legislation that's out there right now, and it's also pointed, and I feel like it's too pointed. Like we need big picture stuff, right?
Yep.
So
we're trying to enshrine the right to privacy and the right to bodily autonomy, right? That's kind of the
I
point
believe
of
so.
the amendment.
Yeah, and access to health care. I think, access to health care. And I guess, do we view abortion as health care? Can we make it irrefutable that abortion is health care? I don't know. I have a lot of opinions. How about the idea? I saw somebody in one of these things as I was flipping through the stuff, the idea of intrusion into somebody's body or intrusion into your private health matters, that, the state and any entities of the state, have no right to intrusion into your health matters and your bodily autonomy. I don't know. Is there a good way to say that?
Intrusion into your health matters and your bodily autonomy. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely opening up. I feel like bodily autonomy probably covers health matters in the way that you want it to cover it. Health does open us up to what is the definition of health, et cetera.
Oh wait, we already have intrusion in there. We already had intrusion in there. Maybe that wasn't the word. Maybe we're already using the correct word, and I didn't even realize it. Man, I'm stressing today.
I think it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Are we missing something? Where are the holes? Oh, here's what I was looking for before. This bill prohibits any person acting under state law, preventing, restricting, impeding, or retaliating against. Okay. So it wasn't this law. I had so many things up on my phone that I was looking at to try to make sense of things. Oh, so now I got like the 14th Amendment up. See, I got so much stuff up. I don't know. Are we done? We can't possibly be done.
I don't know. In our last amendment writing session, you had issues with this. If you don't now, I did not come with issues with it. So
The right to privacy being an issue of individual freedom.
should we bring in Dad? I feel like Dad's good at poking holes.
He is pretty good at poking holes. How do we say break? He's outside. Let's see.
Well, just go get him. I'll play a video for a second.
Okay, you're gonna play one of your songs?
Yep.
Okay. I go.
Okay.
He's not even here.
Oh.
I think he told me he was
Didn't even have
doing
time to pull
something,
it
and
up.
I wasn't even paying attention. Let's see.
Can we phone him in?
I don't know. I just texted him. Watching the live.
We
Okay,
can
so
also
one
just
of
call
these.
it. I think that our audience has
What have they called it? Oh, it's just me and you now.
a podcast. There's two people. I think it's us and Ashley.
What was I going to say? Okay, so one of these amendments, it kind of had like a purpose statement at the beginning. So I don't know. I guess that would be, I don't know if that's necessary, but if it's more like explaining to people why we are writing this amendment, do you think something like that is necessary to say, because of the bullshit going on in the world today, we found it necessary to spell it out?
I mean, I think that the way that we should evaluate this is it going to cover the things that we want to cover it? Are we worried that it's going to give people rights to things that they shouldn't have rights to? And is there an easy hole that's going to be poked in it so that it doesn't actually grant the things that we want? I mean, like the right to privacy. I think once it doesn't infringe on other people's rights, on another's rights. I mean, the thing that I worry about initially is the idea that that this is going to be turned by libertarians into some like age of consent nonsense.
Ugh. I mean, that's a concern. I also think this doesn't really guarantee you access to healthcare. This is just saying, it's nobody's business, but it's not saying, that's not the same as access. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like saying we can't prosecute you for what you do, but also we won't allow doctors to do it. So, how does it address that?
Has the right to. Well, I mean, I think that a different amendment would be the access to healthcare.
Yeah, and then there's like other forms of privacy as well, right? There's, people don't like people being. I mean, you already can't go into somebody's house without a warrant. Same thing with going into your phone. Is there any other form of privacy that we need to protect?
I mean, this would be enshrining just straight up the right to privacy. So, I mean, I think that there is a point there. I mean, one is, would somebody argue that, I mean, certainly someone would argue that someone would argue that, well, then this still doesn't allow abortion because it infringes on another's rights in that the baby has the right to life, right?
Right.
And so,
yeah. So, I mean, maybe just saying an individual isn't even enough, right? Maybe we have to more say, a born person. A citizen born in the United States. How do you say that? Because I think being born is pretty critical when it comes to your privacy. Well, that's a lovely sound. How do we say that? Because an individual isn't enough, because yes, again, they view life at conception, that's an individual. While I agree with you,
it's crazy to me that we protect the rights of dead people. Like, it's crazy that we have to ask to be an organ donor. Like, because we respect somebody's religious right to be buried with all their shit. Fuck you. Okay? You're dead. If you have a problem with me harvesting your organs after you're dead, come complain to me about it. You and not your family. You come complain to me about it after you're dead. You fucking dork. Oh, I don't want my organs to save somebody. Shut the fuck up. Stop riding a motorcycle, then.
Hey, you ride a motorcycle.
And I'm an organ donor. Okay.
Okay. I mean, that is an interesting point. The idea that a dead person would have more rights to their body than a pregnant woman would. But, I don't really know what to do with that other than acknowledge that it's fucked up.
It's like, I mean, a person has the right to... this is difficult. when I grow up, I want to be a cadaver. Oh, man. I think you would like my Uncle Vinny. Oh, boy.
Like, there's got to be, what's the language for a person who's born?
It's like, how do I make this amendment make it clear that, well, okay, if you have a right to bodily autonomy, once you have, is it you have a right to bodily autonomy? Maybe the, like, unless it intrudes on the public's right to safety, like, unless it infringes on someone else's rights, is not, like, it's not necessary, right? I mean, it's not like we say you have the right to life unless it infringes on someone else's rights, because obviously that other person has the right to life, right? So you don't have the right to take their organs. So maybe that sentence is unnecessary. You have the right to bodily autonomy.
Okay.
Boom. You have
Right,
the freedom
but-
from intrusion into their bodily autonomy. Period. What are we protecting from? Except in cases where it may infringe on the public's right to safety.
Right. So what part are you removing?
The except in cases where it may infringe on another's rights.
Okay. We can take that one out. I feel like I had this wording in my head, like probably right before I fell asleep, and then now I've, lost it to whatever the heck I dreamed about. Let's see. Ew, gross.
Look, if you're afraid of the word fetus, it's going to be hard to talk about abortion.
Me?
Yeah. Didn't you say ew, gross when I typed fetus?
Oh, I didn't see what you typed. I was reading something that I didn't like here.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you don't have viewers that are trying to interpret what you say.
I apologize. I was reading, the Supreme Court can define person to include all human beings, born and unborn. It's like, no, I don't like that. That's what I said ew to. It's like, the whole point is we need to guarantee the rights of the people that are already alive. Okay, what does this say? Let's see. Okay. Specifically, a person, fetus, or otherwise cannot require the use of your body for their own purposes, but may only use it. Okay, so here's my problem with this sentence. Is when you say consent, there is a whole host of people that believe that if you, had sex, that was consent, right? You consented to the results.
Oh my God.
Of the act.
Ongoing. Watch. Okay.
Right. Into their body.
I mean, if I agreed to donate an organ to you, and then we get to the operation room and I change my mind, I mean, fuck me, right? Feel free to hate me, but you can't require, be like, nope, that's my organ now.
No, yeah, you should be able to, right up until the point that they've taken it out of you. You should be able to.
Yeah, this isn't making any statement on whether or not you're a douchebag. It's just saying that you have the right, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I definitely don't like the word fetus. Although it is saying it very expressly, which I suppose that is good to say things expressly, but I don't know why I want to avoid it. Let's see, what does this say? How can we word it not to let religious people mess it up? Should be the goal. I agree. That should be the goal. How are they going to... Oh, Dad's back.
What's up?
Hey, Brink, we need your help. Yep. Well, we're writing an amendment right now, and we were hoping you could come and poke the holes in it for us and help us out. He literally just walked in the door, so I've caught him unprepared. A born person cannot require the use of another.
Is our airport?
What time is it?
It's like almost 1 o'clock.
Oh, it's almost 1 o'clock. I have to. We can maybe we go like another 10 minutes, and then I got to get going for a hair appointment. Let's see. Or maybe 20 minutes. We'll see.
I mean, I want to take a shower, but I want to do it when you're live on the internet.
It's all good.
Take the podcast outside.
Let's see.
If it makes Dad feel better, Ellie had a whole shower during this podcast, I think.
You could hear him? Man,
What?
you heard what Dad
Oh,
said?
yeah, we could hear him. Yeah.
Oh, wow, these headphones really pick it up. He was barely
Sounds
talking.
sucky.
Okay, I'll take the podcast outside. Do 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 do. Ouch! Trying not to fall down.
All right, so here's the edit to that. Okay, I'm just gonna read the whole thing, Mom,
Okay, I appreciate it.
and I will read it in my hoity-toity voice. The right to privacy, being an issue of individual freedom, grants said individual freedom from intrusion into their bodily autonomy or personal relationships, except in cases where it may infringe upon the public's right to safety and there is no reasonable alternative. Specifically, a person cannot require the use of another individual's body without the ongoing consent of said individual.
Okay, can you hear me? I don't even know. Let's see.
Okay, did you hear me?
I heard you. Yes.
Okay.
I had sort of kicked myself off for a minute, so it was weird. Okay. Let's see. Specifically, a person cannot require the use of another individual's body without the ongoing. I mean, I kind of like that. Yeah, Ashley does too. Yeah, I like that wording a lot better. I feel like we're missing something, but let me. What are we missing? Okay, so like if you were going to expand this because we're talking about privacy, and that kind of extends to the idea, like trans rights, right? The access to trans health-related issues, right?
Yep.
Is there a way to address that in this as well? Am I trying to do too much?
The bodily autonomy.
Right. Let's see. Freedom from intrusion into their bodily autonomy. Okay. So does that include, intrusion into your bodily autonomy, does that include saying that, the government can't tell me what my body should look like or what my body is?
Yes, that's an intrusion into your bodily autonomy.
I'm just thinking out loud.
We know that the Supreme Court rules on the basis of if you have bodily autonomy, then you have the right to those things, because that was the way that they substantiated their previous rulings. The only issue now is that they don't actually believe that the Constitution guarantees you the right to bodily autonomy. As soon as you enshrine that, I think that all those other things follow.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to be forward thinking and make sure, that it's there.
Yep.
What do you think? Did we finish it? Are we done? Does it need more? Am I trying to overcomplicate it?
I mean, I think that right now we put it out there and we ask for revisions.
Okay. So what do you want to?
And we
should
can
we be
say what our
tweeting
stated
it?
goal is.
Okay.
We can put it on Instagram in front of our fans. We say the stated goal: we want to protect bodily autonomy and abortion. In kind of I mean, how would trans rights? Well, I mean, how would trans rights affect the public's right to safety? That's a question. Ashley Nicole asks, what if they try to say trans rights affect their safety? I mean, I feel like they can try to say that, but they need to substantiate it.
They do, and I think the word public safety is different than individual safety, right? So, I hope. So I don't know if we have to define what public safety means, but making one person uncomfortable is not public safety. So,
no,
I don't know. Your feelings don't come into public safety either. That's not, yeah.
Yeah, I don't honestly think that if this was in the Constitution that sort of an argument would be any worry.
Well, I agree with you, but I say words matter in the Constitution, right? We can look at the Second Amendment that is just, like 2 sentences, and those sentences get parsed endlessly.
Yes.
So I think this is pretty good. I like the idea of, so at this point we are trying to protect bodily autonomy, your right to abortion. Any feedback would be great. We can put it on whatever platforms you have available, you have access to. So I'll just take this, Colin, you can send this to me, and I'll put it on Instagram.
Great.
And then you guys can grab it from there and do whatever you want to do it. Put it out there however you want to put it out there. And then once we think we think it's pretty good right now, put it out how it is. But if you guys find revisions that are necessary, or if somebody brings up a good point, in your little sphere of influence, let us know and we'll see what we can do.
Sweet.
All right. Yay!
Rock on, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, your brother just walked by. Let me say hi. Oh, come here.
Hello, am I YouTube famous right now?
To 5 people you are, and also your brother.
He says to 5 people you are, and also
Oh
your
my
brother.
God, with the hyperextended elbows, Owen.
Especially to Ashley Nicole.
Yep. Ooh, your elbows are hurting, Colin.
It has that effect on people.
It's so gross.
Okay.
All right.
Have fun.
Love you guys.
Love you. Oh, and thank you everybody for keeping us company. Let us know what you think. All right. Should we sing it out? Can we sing it out today?
Yep. Let's do it.
Queen. Shabadoo.
We are the revolutionaries who wrote the amendment, who will never actually be ratified because we have no power, because we have no money. But that is fine. There's power in numbers, but that number is not 5. 5 is not a number that is powerful.
It'll spread like a virus. It starts off small and gets bigger.
Sugar.
All right. Bye.